Hello friends, this is Dr. Sangram Savargave from Apisha Institute of Technology Thane. Currently I am working as a associate professor in Department of Mechanical Engineering. Topic for today's presentation is industrial automation, sustainability and carbon footprint. Friends, I have selected this topic as a requirement and partial fulfillment of FDP on environment and sustainability OE4BW. The system used for study is Automated Manufacturing Unit and the standards referred are IEC TR 62635, ISO standards 14040 and 14044. Also, I have referred the generic data for the study purpose. Also, I have prepared the video on environmental awareness and sustainability in week 1 and week 2. The contents for my today's presentation are objective of this presentation, then outcomes, then overview, introduction to sustainability, concern of sustainability for automation, how to access sustainable automation, then carbon footprint, and for this case study referred is manufacturing unit, and at the end, conclusion. The objective is automation helps manufacturing to become sustainable and energy efficient by adopting sustainable manufacturing practices. Then outcome of this video is to help individuals and social groups acquire an awareness and sensitivity to total environment and its allied problems. Define and apply sustainable principles in academic programs. Explain how natural, economic and social systems interact to foster or prevent sustainability. Analyze and explain local, national, and global sustainability using a multidisciplinary approach. Understand how sustainability can be improved in industrial process with automation and prepare carbon footprint. Ability to play important role for sustainability assessment while adopting automation in industry. The overview. The purpose of this presentation is to describe how sustainability in automation can be assessed. The assessment method is illustrated using a case study of a robot. Three aspects of sustainability assessment in automation are identified. Consider automation as a part of larger system that fulfills the market demand for a given functionality. Then second aspect is three aspects of sustainability assessed are environmental, economical and societal. Then third one is automation is a part of the system with many levels with different persons at each level meeting the market demand. In this system, specifications move top down, which helps avoiding sub-optimization and problem shifting. From these three aspects, sustainable automation is defined as automation that contributes to product that fulfill a market demand in a more sustainable way. The case study presents the carbon footprints of robot, production unit, production line, and the final product. The case study results illustrate that depending on the person and the level he/she acts at, sustainability and the actions that can be taken to contribute to a more sustainable product are perceived differently. Even though the robot is a minor contributor to the carbon footprint at unit or line level, from the perspective of a robot producer, reducing the electricity consumption during the robot's use stage can be a considerable improvement in the carbon footprint of a robot and thus in a sustainability profile of the robot. Then introduction to sustainability. Maintaining the ecosystem and the sustainable economic development. These two aspects are incompatible. Ecosystem conservation limits businesses, whereas economic activities degrade the nature. To bridge this gap, one can adapt the technology and hence we are going for automation. Then we will define what is meant by sustainable automation. Having the business activities and strategies that satisfies the need of the company and its stakeholders while taking care and boosting the personal and nature resources and sustaining what is the future requirement. Then concern of sustainability for automation. When we think about sustainability in manufacturing process which are automated, it has two-way concern. That is, automation role in terms of environmental impacts and economics, and technology impact to reduce effect on environment. Manufacturing activity must be reduced because growth of population combined with increasing standard of living. These trends are expected to cause an increased impact of manufacturing on the environment. For example, in 2010, the study says the manufacturing sector contributed with around 19% to the worldwide carbon dioxide emission. Between 2005 and 2010, the CO2 emissions increased on average 2.8% annually. In the same period, the population size increased with 1.2% and the GDP per capita, considered an indicator for standard of living, increased with 5.6% annually. The relation between environmental impacts, population size, affluence, and technology is described in IPAT equation, what I have referred. In this equation, the impact on the environment is described by the multiplication of the total population, the affluence per capita, and the impact of technology. Because population growth and increased standards of living are difficult to change without an ethical discussion, technology is most promising way to lower the impact of human activity on the environment. Then in order to do so, the European Commission has elaborated in collaboration with the European Factories of the Future Research Association a roadmap of how the factory should look like in 2030. This roadmap addresses several key aspects like lower resource consumption and sustainability in production processes. Although, for example, climate change is well known in industry, the understanding of how to analyze its impact is lacking in automation technology. Then how to access sustainable automation? In order to access the sustainability of automated manufacturing systems, there are number of aspects that need to be addressed, and what is the topic for our today's presentation. We discuss the questions of when automated system can be called sustainable, the system boundaries that need to be chosen for an assessment, and which parameters of sustainability need to be addressed. Automation is a part of a system with many levels that ultimately contributes to fulfilling a demand from the market for a given functionality. To meet this demand in a sustainable way, specifications are passed top-down from the market demand to the resulting product, the production system of that product, down to, among others, the automation used. Three dimensions for assessment are economic, environmental, and social impacts. As a consequence, making choices in the design phase of the product, for example, choosing the most sustainable option, results in specifications for the production system. Within these constraints, the production system can be optimized in terms of sustainability, which in turn sets the boundaries for automation solution. Then the three dimensions considered are: we propose to access sustainability following the three-pillar approach by looking at environment, society, and economy, as I said earlier. Among the life cycle based approach, the methodology to access environmental sustainability called life cycle assessment has been developed for the rest. LCA is standardized in the ISO standards 14040 and 14044, describing the framework and the impact assessment respectively. Following similar system boundaries as the environmental assessment in LCA, life cycle costing can be used to map main cost drivers and revenues in the life cycle of the product. In contrast to LCA, the system boundaries in LCC are usually set to include the cost of R&D and making of the study's product or system. Social or societal LCA, that is SLCA, the methodology that covers the third pillar of sustainability, is still fairly young. The method aims to cover the positive and negative social and socio-economic aspects along the life cycle of the product. Methodology and practice are still under development. Instead of considering these three methodologies in isolation, the concept of life cycle sustainability assessment has been proposed. Here, LCSA, that is life cycle sustainability assessment can be considered as the sum of its three constituents, that is LCA, LCC and SLCA. Then the case study is a robot, production unit and line. Aim of this study is to see at the importance of the boundary setting selected for assessment and to place automation in context. Because of this, we limit the assessment to one aspect of sustainability called carbon footprint, that is the sum of the contributions to climate change quantified in terms of tons CO2. Assessment could be done for environmental impacts, for example, all those listed in table A, and are for economic or societal impacts. Ideally, in a full assessment, all aspects of sustainability are included. We look at the robot in isolation, in a production unit, and in an automated production line. Finally, the product is related to automation product used in its production. The results of this case study are expressed in relative numbers due to confidential reasons. Aim of the study is to demonstrate how sustainability of manufacturing lines can be assessed in various contexts and how the boundary settings influence the result. For this aim, a relative number work just as an absolute number. Modeling of the life cycle of the product system described was done using generic data from the environmental database. See the indicators for sustainability aspects and indicators I have listed in this table, that is environment LCA, economy LCC and society SLCA and their corresponding indicators. Carbon footprint. It is total of greenhouse gas emissions by any system, person or a product. That is called as a carbon footprint. The concept is basically initiated by ecologist William Rees in 1990. Greenhouse gases produced by human directly or indirectly, and we measure in equivalent tons of CO2. Generally, carbon footprint is expressed for a period of 1 year. Then the major effects encountered are effect on nature, that is a climate change. It includes large carbon footprint results in warming of the planet, then which disturbs Earth's energy balance. Then second major effect is depletion of resources. Large carbon footprint results in depletion of resources. This again results in high increase in greenhouse gases and consequently affect the climate. Then we will go one by one with the footprints of each one, that is a robot, then a unit and a line. Then first we will see the carbon footprint of a robot. 6-axis robot called as a Denso VS with a weight of 29 kg and a payload of 5 kg. The function that the robot provides is moving and holding an intermediate product for a given number of cycles, where the number of cycles is defined by the shift system. It is based on 2 daily shifts totaling 14.3 hours per day for 5 days a week. This system is run for 46 weeks per year over a period of 20 years. This will help us to calculate the carbon footprint. The considered material composition of the robot was based on who listed materials for a lighter robot. This material composition was upscaled to match the weight of robot under assessment. The robot controller was modeled as a desktop PC without screen, to which the robot was connected via a data cable. Lacking data for the assembly of the robot arm, it was assumed that manufacturing energy amounted to 30% of the primary energy contained in the material of which the arm was made. This assumption was also used in other cases described later on, and this is a conservative estimate based. Assembly was assumed to take place in Japan, after which the packed robot is shipped to Europe and transported further by truck to the user. The results shown as relative contributions to the overall carbon footprint of the robot modeled as indicated are presented in table B. Electricity consumption during the 20 years of use of the robot was modeled based on the measurements of the robot's power consumption when producing and when on standby. Electricity was modeled using the electricity mix provided by the Danish grid in 2010. Maintenance was assumed to be done according to the specification given by the robot manufacturer. After 20 years of use, the robot is transported to a waste handling facility. The end of life, that is disposal of the robot, was modeled according to the standard IEC TR 62635 for electronics and electronic waste, which prescribes that as much material as possible must be recovered and recycled. The amount of material recycled was assumed to replace the extraction of virgin material. See, this table B shows the carbon footprint of a single robot. The life cycle stages here considered are materials and manufacturing, its use, disposal, end of life, and transport. If you see in all these four parameters, its use contributes to 99 around 99% of carbon footprint. Despite the uncertainty associated with these numbers, as a consequence of the modeling assumptions made, the conclusion is clear. The electricity consumption in the use stage of the robot is the dominant environmental hotspot. As a consequence, from the perspective of the robot developer of this type of robots and the same use pattern, the most meaningful way to contribute to more sustainable automation would be to reduce the use stage electricity consumption. Then a hypothetical 10% reduction of electricity consumption results in a similar decrease in the carbon footprint. Then next we'll go for carbon footprint of a production unit. In this analysis, the carbon footprint of a population unit is presented. The unit is a part of the production line of thermostatic expansion valve. In the unit, welding paste is applied onto a wall in two parallel processes. Both processes are carried out by two robots, one of which is the robot described in the previous section. The aim of this analysis is to see where the main impact in the life cycle of the cell arise and compare the magnitude of the carbon footprint to that of a single robot. The modeling of the four robots was done by using the model of the robot described in the last section and upscaled to represent the bigger Denso HM robot also used in this unit. For this type of robot, electricity consumption measurements were available both for a working robot and for when the robot is on standby, as I said earlier. The other equipment in the unit, that is production and control unit, was modeled using generic database processes. For the use of stages of unit, 3-day electricity consumption measurements were available. These measurements covered both production and longer production stops, that is overnight breaks. From the number of walls processed and the shift system used in the factory, the annual electricity consumption of the unit was extrapolated. This number covered all machinery in the unit, including the robots. Combining this number with the calculated electricity consumption for the robots allowed us to calculate the electricity consumption of the remaining parts. And see, this is the table which shows the carbon footprint of a production unit. Around 10 parameters are listed here. The end of life modeling of all equipment in the cell, that is a unit, as well as the cell itself, was done according to the procedure described in the assessment of the robot. Finally, overhead electricity and heat consumption were included in the assessment, since these are required to provide the circumstances in which the cell and its operator are allowed to work. The annual power and heat consumption for the entire factory were allocated to the cell on the basis of the shop floor area occupied by the unit relative to the shop floor area of all cells in the factory. The results for this assessment are shown in table C. As was the case for the robot, the main 92% contribution to the carbon footprint is from the use stage, with the material extraction and manufacturing of the cell and its equipment adding most of the remaining impacts. However, most of the carbon footprint can be attributed to the overhead consumption of heat and electricity. Electricity consumption of the cell and its equipment is 34% of the carbon footprint, with all four robots contributing approximately half of this. Comparing the carbon footprint of the cell with that of the robot presented in the previous section shows that the footprint of the cell is 20 times larger. This finding can be used to put into perspective the hypothetical 10% reduction of the electricity consumption during the use stage of the robot mentioned in the previous section. When looking at the robot alone, this resulted in a considerable reduction of the carbon footprint, but now assuming that novel technology or scheduling can reduce the electricity consumption of each of the four robots in the cell with 10%. This would reduce the carbon footprint of the cell with only 1.75%. Hence, reducing the electricity consumptions of the robot that was the obvious thing to do from the perspective of the robot developer would not be the first aim for the system integrator or the facility manager. Instead, focusing on the reducing the use of electricity, light as well as heat would potentially result in a more sustainable production practice. Then last, we will see the carbon footprint of a production line. When zooming out one more level, we can look at the entire production line of a thermostat expansion valve. The modeling of this production line was done along the same line as the modeling of the cell. Three types of cells were defined with different sizes. These small, medium, large cells differ in amount of material used in the cell construction and the weight of the installed equipment. In addition to this, the standard conveyor system was defined. The production line of the valves was split into 8 smaller lines. These were modeled by combining a number of predefined cells and a given length of conveyor belt. The production line under study is located in a factory where a second production line consisting of 7 sublines of another valve type is located. Consumption of electricity, compressed air, processed gases, nitrogen, hydrogen, argon, helium, etc., and liquids, ethanol, was obtained for the entire factory. Allocation of the consumables used in production was done on basis of share of produced pieces on both production lines. An exception was the electricity consumption, for which annual data was available for a number of lines. For other lines, 3-day measurements were extrapolated. In case neither of these data was available, estimates were made on basis of layout and function of line. This was the case in 3 out of 15 sublines in the factory. As was the case for the modeling of the cell, overhead heat and electricity consumptions were allocated to the sublines on basis of their relative shop floor area. The overhead electricity consumption was calculated as the difference between the total electricity consumption and the calculated consumption for both production lines. Then, carbon footprint of a production line. The results of this assessment are presented in table D, as was the case for the carbon footprint of the production cell and the robot. Virtually all of the emissions occur in the use stage of the production line. As can be seen from table D, the largest contributors to the carbon footprint are relative to electricity consumption of the equipment 37% and for overhead 28%. Furthermore, the most important process contributing 52% to the carbon footprint of consumables, that is 70%, is compressed air because of the electricity required to compress the air. It has to be noted that the assumptions done in allocating the electricity consumption to overhead lines and sublines introduced some uncertainty in the numbers presented in table 4. However, this is not expected to change the conclusions drawn here. In terms of magnitude, the carbon footprint of the entire line is approximately 3,800 times larger than that of the single robot analyzed. Table D shows that the 32 robots present in this line contribute with approximately 1.5% of the carbon footprint of the line over its entire life cycle. A hypothetical 10% electricity reduction in the use stage of every robot would therefore only reduce the overall carbon footprint of the line with approximately 0.1%. As for the production cell, from the point of view of factory planner or owner, this kind of reduction would most likely not be the starting point for more sustainable production. In this case, when dealing with the energy planning of the line, robot energy use therefore should not have only priority but should be seen in a system perspective. The table D is listed for a carbon footprint of a production line where around 10 parameters are considered. Again here if you observe, use stage is about 99% contribution for the carbon footprint. For instances, efforts to reduce overhead electricity and heat consumption may well have a considerably larger effect. Also improving factory parameters such as size, insulation or shift system used may yield a larger reduction in the carbon footprint of the overall manufacturing system. The automated production line presented here includes 32 robots, which are relatively small compared to other robots on the market. So, in case of more heavily automated lines or when larger robots are used with other use patterns, the contribution of robot to the carbon footprint may be higher. A limitation in the introduction of new energy-saving robot technology may be that it results in a higher purchasing cost for the user. These higher costs need to be balanced against the avoided cost of the electricity saved. Depending on the time horizon the robot user considers in his accounting, the room for additional initial investment is limited. This underlines that environmental and economic sustainability may be conflicting. In such cases, taking the full life cycle into consideration could help to make the right decision. The product perspective, that is overall product perspective. The case study presented here has looked at a single robot SL and a production line working for 20 hours. In this period, the line can be assumed to produce several million walls if current production volumes are extrapolated. These walls go into other products, for example, the refrigerator for retail purpose. In the carbon footprint found for the life cycle of this free wall and its production can be expected to play a minor role. Despite the fact that robots are minor contributors to the carbon footprint of a cell or a line, and that the individual robot will be hardly visible in the life cycle of the product, working on more sustainable robots makes sense, especially if the trend of more automation will continue. From the perspective of a robot builder, it may be the best possible contribution. Then the conclusion of my presentation is sustainability in automation has to be assessed in the context of the market demand for a given functionality. Then depending on the role of the person and his or role in fulfilling a market demand, sustainability and the action that can be taken to arrive at a more sustainable product is perceived differently. Being aware of these key circumstances can help avoiding sub-optimization and problem shifting. As indicated by the case study, even though from a factory owner's perspective, a robot may be a minor contributor to the carbon footprint of a cell or a line, the most useful contribution to more sustainable production from a builder's perspective would be to reduce electricity consumption of the robot in its use stage. Then these are the references from which I have collected the data. Thank you. Thank you very much.